Welcome to MMA Fakecast and an early Happy New Year, Happy 2024 to everybody out there. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. It's really exciting to always have new viewers and new subscribers. Welcome back if you're already a subscriber, and a big first-time welcome, first-time guest of the show, Killer K. Alger. Killer K, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Luke, for having me on.
It's great having you on. You're 21 years old. You're a young kid. You're 3 fights into your amateur career. We're having you on tonight to talk about the fact that you are going to be fighting for the flyweight 125-pound amateur Cagezilla belt at Cagezilla 77 in February 24 of 2024. So February 24 of 24, that's kind of a fun date. But before we get to that, because obviously that's why you're on the show, let me say, it's always great to have a first-time guest on the show. I hope to follow you for the duration of your career. But let's start at the beginning. What sports did you do in middle school and high school before MMA was in your life? What sports did you do? And then what led you into MMA?
Well, I initially went to my first boxing gym. Here in Hagerstown, still here actually. It's ran by Simon Brown, who was a WBC boxer back in the day. I wasn't there. I was there briefly, off and on for the first couple of years, just trying to find my way because I didn't really know a lot of gyms around here. But the goal was still to get in MMA, and I knew I had time, so I wasn't rushing. I eventually found the gym that I stayed with for about 5 or 6 years, and up until the pandemic, which was Hagerstown Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy. And with being there, I learned a lot of the tools and the skills, and was around a lot of pro fighters and amateur fighters, people who were just coming in, dropping in training sessions. I learned a lot from there, and I was able to take that into what I'm doing now. So it originally started boxing, and then jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, and then still now, obviously today, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu. I do a little bit of everything, honestly. I even incorporated a few high-level wrestlers into my training to tighten up that gap over time.
Sure. It sounds like you're all-around mixed martial artist. Obviously, you're still young in the sport, so there's a lot of time to add to those things. But let's talk about your less than ideal debut. You debuted back in 2022. It looks like December 17th, so just over a year ago of 2022. I'm sure that was an anniversary that you were happy to get behind you. You lost the decision, so it wasn't like you got knocked out in the first round or anything. But what was that like? You fought at Cagezilla 70, and now you're going to be fighting at Cagezilla 77 for a belt. But at Cagezilla 70, you picked up your first loss, your only loss so far of your career. What was that like for you, and what had you coming back after that first loss?
It was never. It wasn't about that fight for me. It was about the record. Obviously, I would have loved to keep that perfect. But I came out and I gave my best, and he was a tough guy. I feel like on a different night, different rules, different anything, there's so many things that could go different. But that night, that's the result that came. I was not the better fighter that night. And I had 2 ways that I could go from that. I could either learn from that and come back, use the things that I did wrong, because there's undoubtedly I did things wrong in that fight. And I could use that for positive, or I could just let that eat me and I could never show up. So I took the time. I wanted to hop back in there 4 months later, and then 6 months later, and it just so happened to be 8 months later. That was my time. That was the perfect matchup for me. Going up a weight class. Yeah, and it was great to finally get a W, and feel like I kind of righted that wrong, even though it was in a new weight class.
And Killer K, not only did you get a W, you got it with a knockout in the first round. What was the setup? You're known as a Muay Thai background guy, even though you also have jiu-jitsu. We'll get to your jiu-jitsu win, your submission win here in a second. But what was the setup to that? Was it a punch that set up a kick that set up a punch? I didn't watch it. I'm just curious what got that set up for your knockout 1 minute and 20 seconds into round 1.
it was sort of like a snap kick
Mhm.
to get him moving backwards. Um, I kind of realized like he would try to close the distance, but he wasn't really closing the distance with anything more than one or two strikes. So I figured if I threw something really big and explosive, maybe I could get him to do what he had been doing, um, and just kind of get on the back step because that was his fight to win. If he just walked forward, he was the bigger guy, the stronger guy. He had the better team,
Mhm.
and he had the wrestling background with a higher level jiu-jitsu belt. Um, that was his way to win that fight, was to pressure me against the cage and make that a tough fight, just like the first guy did. And that's why I loved that matchup, because it was the perfect matchup for me to kind of prove like I made some changes, even if I didn't get to um, show the grappling in that second fight. I showed that I can come out and control the distance better to make what I do way better, and it it paid off.
Yeah,
It
it
it was
really did.
the I'm sorry to cut you off. The actual finishing sequence, I think, was it was like I feinted a left hook and finished him with a right hand, and then follow up shots until the ref stopped it.
Great, great. And it makes sense. One of the things that's going to make you better is taking fights where you really have to pick a game plan that's going to work to your strengths. Obviously, going up a weight class against a guy that's stronger than you, like you mentioned, a bunch of different skill levels that he had, clearly pushed you. Now you're going to be fighting. I think your more ideal weight is the flyweight, and we're building our way to that. You took on Travis Long. I've watched Travis Long fight. I forget what situation. It wasn't your fight, must have been one of his first couple fights. So tough guy. You were coming in with a 1-1 record. He was coming in with a 2-1 record. So a guy more experienced. Again, kind of what you did. You even had a better performance, 43-second submission first round armbar. What was the situation there? And did you intentionally want to like round out and show off your submission, or kind of what happened versus Travis Long?
No, no, actually, funny thing is, I don't think anybody, including me, kind of expected that to go that way. Not that I ever sleep on my jujitsu. Like I said, I come from a very good jujitsu background. Although I am a white belt, on paper, I'm much higher level than white belt. So my awareness on the ground, my safety on the ground. If you recall back to the first fight, for people who have watched that fight throughout, you know, Jonathan comes from a very good jiu-jitsu gym and very good jiu-jitsu guys. He learns from a bunch of black belts, just like I did under Michael Curran at Hagerstown BJJ for a very long time. And you know, I've developed enough awareness on the ground to where I can stand out against some of these higher level belts. I think experience is key. And I've done a lot of MMA things over the years. I've seen a lot of different styles, trained with a lot of different people. I think that all just comes into play. I'm just a complete martial artist, and I'm good everywhere. I can throw up some stuff from my back. Um, Obviously, my game plan isn't going to be take you down, but I'm 100% comfortable on my back as well. So
Yeah, that's a great mindset to have. And if you've never heard one of my favorite quotes with a Muay Thai guy that, was around the UFC for a long time, holds a lot of records for them, Donald Cowboy Cerrone was once asked, because he had a lot of submissions, but he was a Muay Thai guy. He had, I think, 100 pro Muay Thai fights before he got into the UFC. Was known for his Muay Thai and had some incredible stand-up. But he was once asked something about like, you end up taking it to the ground, you have all these great submissions. And he said, well, my favorite type of takedown is a knockdown. And I actually think that goes a long way. So if you've never heard that, that's a Cowboy Cerrone quote. And that could be you. The Muay Thai style is, hey, a great takedown is a knockdown. If they're on the canvas, then you can jump on them and get ground and pound or a submission. You don't necessarily have to be a pure takedown guy. So really cool stuff. Great to hear that you can win both by knockout, TKO, ground and pound, that type of stuff. Also submission, quick starter, which is a great thing to have, particularly in amateur where you got to get a lot done in a shorter time frame because these aren't pro rounds. Let's talk about the February 24th card for Cagezilla 77. You've done Cagezilla 70, 74, 75, so back to back cards just a month apart from each other, 2 months separating. Pretty great stuff. And now you're back again for a title fight. So talk about that. What made you say yes to a quick turnaround again to fight for Cagezilla 77 February 24th? And then we'll talk about the opponent.
Me and the promoter Ryan from Cagezilla, we've been trying to get something together for a little bit now. We had a few guys in mind for a bantamweight title eliminator. Bantamweight's kind of clogged up right now. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of guys that are kind of having good performances at bantamweight. It's a flooded division, not just in Cagezilla, but outside of Cagezilla as well. And they're wanting to come into Cagezilla at different times. The champion is at the same night as me. He's actually going for the champion of the bantamweight division is going for his third title, become triple champ. So we're just waiting to see what happens with the 135 title. That's I plan on kind of fighting in both divisions. Just really depends on the matchup. It is hard to find matchups for whatever reason. Yeah, we've tried to find like 3 different people for the December 16th card, and those fell through. But now we found somebody at flyweight, returning to flyweight. I walk pretty low, but we found somebody at flyweight. There's a vacant title there, and we're both deserving of a title shot. So we're getting put together, and we both perform, So we both finished every win that we have, and we've never lost by finish, So
Yeah.
it's undoubtedly going to be a good fight. So
yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Amateur records. There was a pro fighter in Pittsburgh who said, records are for DJs, meaning that a big part of building up your amateur, like you said, everybody would want a 0, everybody would want no losses. But you and your opponent is John Day Fuller. He also has 2 wins. You have 2 wins. His 2 wins are by finish, but by submission. Your 2 wins are 1 submission, 1 knockout. And to your point, the fact that all of your losses combined have been by decision, I think it's kind of like you don't want to lose by anyway, but losing by decision at least shows that you're making it through the fight, And obviously when you're winning, you guys are finishing. So let's get to that fight. How do you see it going? Obviously it's incredible to have you on and talk about you fighting at the age of 21 for a title fight. Cagezilla is pretty well known. Obviously been around. This is their 77th production. So hats off to them. And yeah, let's talk about that. And also good stuff for John Day Fuller coming in with 4 fights. You're going into your 4th fight. He's going into his 5th. So pretty good matchup there.
Yeah, we're both Cagezilla. I'm pretty sure we've only fought Cagezilla. All of John D's 4 fights, including his 5th here, will be for Cagezilla. All of my fights have been for Cagezilla. So we've kind of found our way through the division over time, whether it be people inactive or injuries. We're here now. He is a jiu-jitsu black belt. So he poses some great threats when it goes to the ground. This matchup is very good. At 125, I feel like my strength and power definitely will give a lot of people problems. I really don't focus too much on anything more than paper in this sport, because that's all it comes down to. So many different things happen in the cage, and it's literally just anything goes, So I totally believe that even though I am a white belt and he is the black belt, I totally believe that I can win this fight by submission, KO, or I could drag it out the whole 15 minutes, because as a title fight, this will be 3 5-minute rounds.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe I can get the nod on the judges' scorecard if he can, find a way through all those rounds with me. But I do believe that my pace and my pressure will result in another finish. All respect to him, though. I've warmed up next to him at Cagezilla shows. I've held small conversation with him. He's a good person, but my honest opinion is I believe I win this fight by finish.
That's a great breakdown. Also, I didn't know the rule set. For people that don't know, amateur rule sets are controlled by the Commonwealth or the state in which they're held by the commissioner's office, and they all change a little bit. That's really exciting. In some areas, like in Pennsylvania, The advanced amateur, which you would be in, is 3 3-minute rounds for a max of 9 minutes. The only way you fight 15 minutes is if you're pro. For people that watch UFC, that's what all their fights are, 3 5s, except of course if it's a title fight, then it's 5 5s. But that's really exciting. Let's talk about the cardio side, not realizing that this will be a pro length in pretty much any location. 3 5s is a pro. I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
Flyweights are known for their cardio and pressure and ability to go all the way. Obviously, the greatest flyweight to ever do it, DJ Mighty Mouse, actually hit armbar, flying armbar submission with 3 seconds to go in a 25-minute fight. It's almost an impossible record to break, to be that late of a submission in a title fight, but I think it does show how entertaining flyweights can be. So let's talk about cardio, given the fact that this is a 15-minute fight.
I believe that's all up to the fighter. A lot of people believe it's how hard you work. I believe it's a combination of how hard you work and how educated you are in the cage, through your experience. Any man could set a ridiculous pace for the first minute and not keep it. But can you set a pace that you can keep, that you know your body can keep up with? That's what I do. I'm never in a rush when I come out. Things do seem to end quick, but I'm never in a rush. I don't rush anything. I'm flowing and I'm having fun, and I'm just letting whatever happens come to me. I don't rush anything. That's another thing. Going the distance in my first one, getting tired in that first one taught me is you don't have to rush things. Things will come. You have time. What you make of that time. So I believe it's all up to the fighter. I that night will be 100% locked in, and I'll be making the right decisions. I will not outuse what I come into the cage with, and I'll make sure to use it efficiently so that I can get the win, get this title, and then hopefully whenever this bantamweight title clears up in April, we figure out if I can come back up and get a shot at that, maybe become double champion. So.
Wow, you got a bright future, a lot going on. It's also great to hear that, you and your opponent are fighting for Cagezilla, and it's kind of very much developing talent within the promotion. It's really great to see that. Also, for people that are just, including myself, just hearing you speak for the first time, it's really great to hear kind of how you break down things. People forget that, like you mentioned, cardio is your physical ability to do things, but it's also your mental ability to physically manage what you're doing. I was just talking to a former pro fighter who used to fight for NAAFS out in Ohio, Mickey Hughes, shout out Mickey Hughes, and he just did a 100-mile ultra marathoner, which is something I'll never do, running 100 miles in 22 hours. But as a former professional MMA fighter, one of the things he was telling me, we were just chatting, is sort of managing the mental game, right? Now, I'm not even going to start a 100-mile race, but if you're starting a 100-mile race, you got to know that there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way. Same thing in a cage fight. There's no easy cage fight. Even a quick finish, there's always something that could have gone wrong or maybe did go wrong, and you just figured it out in there. So really awesome to hear that mindset. Cardio is mental, it's physical and mental as well. So it's great to see that you have both. Hats off to both you and your opponent for doing enough to get to a title shot. You being 21, you got a lot of development. It's really great to hear things are going so well. I'd love to follow you more in the future. So obviously, when you get the belt, you can come back on and we'll talk about it. But really an honor to have you on the show. A reminder for everybody to subscribe to the channel so you can see more interviews, hopefully, of Killer K. Alger himself, as we hope to have him on many more times in the future. My name's Luke Payson. Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks so much, Killer K, for coming on the show. You
Thank you for
take
having
it.
me on.
You got it, brother. Have a good one.